Queer legal experts explain what happens when Obergefell gay marriage is overturned. With the overturning of Roe versus Wade and Justice Clarence Thomas asserting that other cases, including Obergefell versus Hodges, would be following suit, legal teams have been scrambling to plan a way to protect the rights of married same-sex couples. Currently, the only way to protect those rights for all U.S. citizens would be via Congress. And the slim majority that Democrats hold in the House and Senate mean a filibuster by Republicans is guaranteed. Should Democrats lose seats during the midterm election, something that's likely to happen given the president's low approval rating, the loss of federal protections are expected and should be prepared for. Most legal teams are focusing on ways to get same-sex marriage added to state constitutions and to overturn bans that currently exist. 35 states, including Florida, have laws that ban same-sex marriage. While unlikely, it's possible some states may choose to invalidate marriages performed under Obergefell v. Hodges.
Let me just ask for clarity. Before we had same-sex marriage across the board in our nation, wasn't Florida not one of the first, but one of the states that approved same-sex marriage in our state itself?
Well, there were Well,
Massachusetts, I think.
Like,
there were several other states that had approved marriage previously. But when the Supreme Court was hearing it, they were reading their ruling in, I think it was May or June, maybe it was June. And Florida, it went to court, and the judge said, there's no reason why you shouldn't be married, and brought it to Florida before the Supreme Court, but other states did have it previously.
Okay.
And there were actually two Supreme Court decisions. The first one was about survivorships and tax returns, because Edie Windsor and her wife of many years, when Edie died, her wife had to pay exorbitant estate taxes. A heterosexual married couple would not have had to do that. They were legally married in New York, and they sued, or the wife sued to be able to get that benefit. So the federal government gave that benefit of being able to file taxes together prior to the legalization of marriage, so that some of the federal rights were granted to those marriages that happened in states where it was already legal. But the fear here is we're going backwards.
Way back.
And they could invalidate marriages. They
I would not.
absolutely could.
I am sure I've probably even said on this program, you can't take it away. Once you've given it to you, you can't take it away. But they totally
yes.
proved that wrong. They've totally proved me wrong on that. So,
And, the Roe decision was publicly unpopular. And if they vote to overturn same-sex marriage, that also will be, an unpopular
vote by them.
vote, because the nation has already said,
now
we agree.
I'm not in favor of governing by executive order, but Biden essentially stepped in and he gave a little reprieve for the R v. Wade decision. Is that something you think that the president could do in the Obergefell case? And would he?
But wait till we get another president.
Right. Well, that's right. That's why I'm not in
You
favor
know,
of it.
the thing about doing these little Band-Aid things when the Republicans do something horrible and we find a way to get around it, I'm hopeful, but I'm not optimistic. How's that?
There's like this weird tug of war that, depending on who's in office or what party is in office, everything's going to change.
Right.
So what we had when Obama was in office was definitely different than when Trump was in office.
I remember those
and now
years.
That it was lovely. I'm not going to lie.
great.
But now we have Biden in office, and I'm sorry, it's no wonder that he is not very popular, because Trump, this is the one area in which, and be very wary of what I'm about to say, I will respect him, is that when he says, I'm going to do this thing, he signed his executive order and did it. He was all big business, not business, but big government as opposed to states government, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that's against the Republican creed. I'm
Yeah,
like, right?
exactly.
So, but he made it work, and it was in benefit of the Republican Party. So he was pushing his party's agenda forward. Biden's not doing that right now. There are little things, like you said, that what is out there right now is very small, it's very minute. It's like, okay, let's do this. And then here are some things, nothing that's, okay, a woman has a right to her body. She cannot have this happen. A doctor will not be penalized for providing this needed service on somebody. That's not written. It's suggested, but not written.
The other problem with this story, too, that we haven't talked about yet is the filibuster rule.
Absolutely.
There is no reason. I mean, if we didn't have that, we could get things
much.
passed.
Yeah,
and that's exactly how the Republicans did it in the past. But then for some reason, and this is my one of my biggest problems with the Democrats, is that we are not strong enough to
We
just
take the
get
high road.
things done.
Right.
And you know, I
Stop.
think that
do
we
take
need
the high
to
road.
we need to put this in perspective, because Congress didn't used to be like this. There would always be cross-party line votes on everything. And we've gotten to the point where it doesn't even matter what the issue is. If it is presented by a Democrat,
You don't.
We don't
no
want
Republicans will even consider it.
And it could be
And
really
if
good.
it's put forth by a Republican, no Democrats will even consider it. But I think that,
That wall is
you know, we need to go back to the times when, I mean, there was two political parties for a reason, to create a balance.
Right.
And every committee, there were members from both parties. They came to compromises. And what has happened is the Republicans have worked behind the scenes to make sure conservatism is spread through all the lower echelons of politics, so it just comes up like it's state level. And then from state level, they gerrymander the districts, and so now they can get their members of Congress into the House of Representatives. And then Senate, each state gets 2 senators, so at least that's a general vote. But, you know, I think the two-party system has to crash, completely
Yes.
crash.
100%
I want to
agree.
stick in with this just for a second, because we haven't always been a two-party system.
Oh, yeah.
What
Right,
we
exactly.
have been is, in the last 2 generations, stuck into this Republican v.
Exactly.
Democrat two-party system. I mean,
Right.
our first 2 presidents were Federalists. We had 2 presidents from the Whig Party. There was a very popular Democrat-Republican movement from whom we got presidents. We didn't actually have Republicans until Lincoln.
Right.
So, you know, we've always been merging and evolving political
this
parties,
two-party
but
doesn't
we
work.
haven't done that in
doesn't.
decades.
And I agree, the two-party system needs to be 100% demolished. I will be very honest. I am a Democrat on paper, but at heart, I don't like either party, because at the end of the
Right.
day, what you're doing is going
Right.
towards a party. What you should care about is the American people. And that includes all people, from someone who maybe they are not a certified U.S. citizen to someone who is trans identified. That's who you are taking care of. And to have it that we are so divided that it's, oh, you're not this, you're not that, so I won't help you. So you're going to let that
Yeah,
person be harmed, be starved, not have health care. You're just going to basically let somebody die in
Yeah.
certain extents
For the
Okay.
sake of the party.
for the sake of the party,
Yeah.
which makes
Yeah, and I mean, this whole thing right now with the Republican Party outcasting Liz Cheney for
Oh, yeah.
telling the truth.
For being somewhat reasonable.
being honest.
Yeah, for being on. I mean,
But Julian,
Our country is so divided. I don't see, and it's in the last 20 years, 15 years, it's just gotten to where
Yeah.
the division is so wide that I honestly feel in my lifetime, I don't see that coming back in my lifetime.
oh, I don't
Not
see
for
I
it
long
on
just
either.
don't. And
It's going to take something drastic to happen.
something really big
Bad.
and drastic, yes,
Mm.
is going to have to happen.
You know, people joke and say, Gilead from Handmaid's Tale.
Mhm.
And
Like Gilead that we have here now that's already,
well, I mean,
well, not this one, but example.
but it could, you know, what's happening now are the predecessors in, you know, Handmaid's Tale.
The build.
What happened prior to the whole shift?
Yeah.
One day, a woman goes to get money out of her bank account and she can't because women aren't allowed to own money. You know, it's crazy.
Well, at least
know-
they can't vote.
And one of the other things I think that's happening.
What?
That was
Back
sarcasm.
it up.
That was
I'm
sarcasm.
like,
Uh-oh.
And-
Cindy's ready.
and
Oh,
I
yeah.
honestly-
I'm the way if you want to swing.
You know what? And I honestly feel, you know, something else that's kind of happening now that didn't used to happen, and that is that it used to be that the LGBTQ community got up off their butts and got out there on the streets and really screamed and shouted and did all these protests, etc. We came together in this in the 80s and the late 70s and 80s, and I remember doing this, and it's
That's how
not that
Pride
way
started.
anymore.
Yeah, young people
They
don't have that
It's what
as
happens
much.
with revolution, civil rights,
Right.
because
I-
even looking at the African American civil rights,
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
We
We're like,
divided
we're
it
doing
too.
this.
With,
It's
just
divided.
with the don't say, when the
divided
whole
there.
don't say gay, and we were
You're
trying
nothing.
to, me and another friend, you know, we're like, well, let's organize and let's, you know,
Mhm.
crickets
Right.
Yes.
from our community.
Yes.
And people wanting to come together.
But you know, this
Crickets.
generation organized differently now. It's through social media. So there's social media campaigns.
But
There's
you
like
got to be out
TikTok.
there and take to the
Exactly.
streets.
Right,
You
but this
gotta
is a
take to
digital
the
age,
streets.
though.
But
Well,
just
you know
clicking a
what?
like does nothing.
You know what? And no offense to what you're saying, but bull.
No,
You know,
I
you know,
think
I
it's
disagree.
just
There are
different
different
generations.
ways.
Meaning,
There's
of course, I'm not saying
different
there.
generations.
I'm not saying there
Yeah.
aren't different ways. What I am saying, though, is that we as a community should come together. And I'm not talking about Facebook and I'm not talking about Instagram. I'm think we should come together as a community as we did
But
in the
we're a
70s.
divided community,
and
though.
the 80s.
We all
I'm
don't
talking
have
about
the same
L-
wants.
I'm talking about the
same needs.
LGBTQ
But
community.
even as the LGBTQ communities, we have different wants. I mean, we have people of color who's part of the LGBTQ community.
So-
They don't have the
so
same.
I'm
It's
gonna
a whole different
let me just
conversation.
jump in just for a second because I want to say so. I understand what you're saying, which is that we as a community are fractured in lots of ways.
Right.
But also at the same time, what you're saying, which is we all need to come together and
Yeah.
do this because it's better for all of us.
And again, I hear what you're saying because I hear this time and time again from people that I'm talking to, and that's why I go, "Oof,
Well,
okay,
you know,
good luck with this,
The
people."
reality is that activism looks like a lot of things.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
And the social media component is absolutely necessary. The
Very-
get out on
Never
the
said it
streets
wasn't,
component
yeah.
is absolutely necessary. So
100%.
what I'm saying
We all have
is
our roles.
different people become activists in different ways.
Mhm.
And somebody uses their, maybe their social media credibility or following, and that's how they're doing their activism, because that's the demographic they want to reach. Older people like us, we go a different route because, our cohorts aren't into the social media as much.
I think it has to be kind of a coming
Collective.
together of both because
Yeah.
And
I
not
agree.
even just
I-
those two. I think there's probably
100%
10, 20
different
other
ways to do it.
ways, different
Right.
avenues
Yes.
to go about activism.
So I'm going to be
Absolutely.
the consummate pessimist in here and
No.
say, yes,
I
I'm going to
rebuke you.
tell you that we are complacent capitalists. And as long as we can afford to do those things that we want to do, we're not going to give a shit about anything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you call
And
it to the
that's
grass
why,
like that.
and that's why they want corporations to be people. They, meaning the conservative governments, want corporations to be people. That's why they want marriage to be between a man and a woman, because there are tax benefits to that. That's why they want all of their traditional values to remain, because it keeps us complacent, and it keeps us buying goods that keep the wealthy wealthy.
Dang. Dr. Ty Hauser just shut it down.
All right.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.